We start here this evening. South African pharmaceuticals company Aspen Pharmacare has wrapped up its agreement for $30 million in funding. The funds are aimed at helping manufacture affordable vaccines for the rest of the continent. Let's take a listen.
South Africa's Aspen Pharmacare has finalized agreements securing $30 million from the Gates Foundation and the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations. That's according to the company on Monday, which said the funds would be used to help make affordable vaccines for Africa. In August, Aspen announced a deal with the Serum Institute of India to make and sell 4 Aspen-branded vaccines for the continent, as it looked to use its near-idle COVID-19 vaccine production lines. Aspen said the 10-year agreement with Serum Institute would be supported by the funding from CEPI and the Gates Foundation. Each of the two will contribute $15 million. The Serum Institute agreement provides for Aspen to make and distribute 4 vaccines commonly administered in Africa. In August, CEO Stephen Saad said the contract gives Aspen certainty on volumes and will eventually cover an expected fall in revenue from its COVID vaccine contract with Johnson & Johnson.
Earlier, we caught up with Aspen Senior Executive Stavros Nicolaou about the significance of this 500 million rand deal.
Tremendous vote of confidence and a very exciting announcement for us. Both CEPI, which is the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovation, which is a global organization that represents both leading vaccine players in private and public sector, as well as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, are 2 organizations that are highly seized globally with preventing future pandemics, addressing existing pandemics, and rapidly expanding vaccine availability and accessibility in Africa and across the globe. So for these 2 organizations to partner Aspen today, this assists Aspen both in future outbreak preparedness, but also allows us to expand our vaccine offering and portfolio to the African continent. So today is a very important announcement, not only for Aspen, but for the regional manufacturing efforts of the African continent, and most certainly for the African continent's ability to access affordable quality vaccines into the future.
Engineering and contracting firm Murray & Roberts is at risk of losing its Australian mining business. This follows the group announcing the termination of the proposed disposal of its Australian subsidiary Clow to multinational Italian industrial group Webuild. The collapse of the planned deal led to M&R placing both Clow, the driver of its most significant energy, resources and infrastructure platform, and Murray & Roberts Pty Ltd, an indirect wholly owned subsidiary of M&R and the group's holding company in Australia, into voluntary administration. Following this announcement, Murray & Roberts' share price plunged 21%. Jimmy Moyaha has more.
I think the significant thing about the Clow sale falling through is that now that business needs some assistance, and that's been placed into sort of voluntary assistance program. But also it did account for about 62% of Murray & Roberts' overall order book and about 57% of its revenue in the last financial year. And so that's a significant number, significant contributor towards the overall business. And so from their perspective, the concern now is how are they going to then be able to reduce their debt? How are they going to be able to finance their ongoing working capital needs? Because as of the 30th of June this year, they had an order book sitting at about 59 billion rand. So now they need to look at do they have enough capital to service that order book and deliver on that order book, or what will they do in terms of the restructuring of the cloud business? Are they going to be able to maintain that business? And now that's put into danger some of the other businesses that they have in Australia as well.
Shoprite has received the green light from the Competition Tribunal to continue with its acquisition of several Massmart-owned stores. In the deal, Shoprite will acquire 42 Cambridge Food and Rhino cash and carry stores, the majority of which will include adjacent liquor stores, 2 fruit spot facilities, the Mess Fresh Meat business, and 12 Mess Cash and Carry stores. Excluded from the deal, however, are Messmart's Cambridge stores from around the country. This is what Petri Redeling-Hayes at Herenya Capital had to say earlier on.
In any case, the Competition Tribunal has now come together, or has now sort of made a ruling and said, look, you are welcome to divest. Massmart is welcome to sell these stores to ShopRite. However, 10 of these stores in key locations are not allowed to be sold and must be sold essentially to a small to medium enterprise rather than a big listed business. And obviously there are certain BE constraints that are required for that. So I think they're very focused on the upliftment of the communities in which these stores are based, rather than just winding them into a bigger profit machine, as the words would be. And then also there is an employee share ownership program that needs to be created within 60 days of the merger. So this program has to be created as well. And ShopRite also has to undertake to enroll students in its sort of SMME mentorship program and the government's Yes for Youth program.
Income for tourism accommodation saw a jump in October 2022, despite the industry still battling to recover from COVID-19 and South Africa's inclusion on the red list. Statistics South Africa's tourism accommodation survey shows that income from accommodation more than doubled over the period. This resulted in a 28.1% jump in the number of overnight units booked. Hotels and other accommodation made the highest year-on-year contribution to the overall increase, while on a month-to-month basis, caravan parks, camping sites and hotels led the growth.
But overall, if you look at the data, it's actually looking rather encouraging. Look, there is still quite, relatively high vacancies or low occupancy rate, if you will. However, we are approaching the pre-COVID. So pre-COVID, we were sort of trailing just below 50% on occupancy in sort of the accommodation industry as a whole. And we're trailing now just below 40%. So we're about 10% off from where we were before the COVID pandemic, shut down the entire world. So it seems to me that there is this gradual, steady recovery that has been taking place. And, bar a few months here and there, over the last 2 years, we've been steadily ticking up every month. Even though that rate of increase is slowing down some, that recovery is really starting to take shape. And we're almost back at, looking at the sort of industry as a whole, that we probably are getting very close to if not yet, well, we won't yet be above the pre-COVID sort of occupancy levels, but we definitely are seeing a great recovery in this industry, and it's looking as though within the next 6 months we should be back to where we started, sort of in 2019.
And Tongaat Hewlett shareholders are calling for a speedy resolution to a damages claim against auditing giant Deloitte. The auditing giant came under fire for failing to detect fraud at Steinhoff International, and a 1.3 billion rand settlement was reached. Now, Tongaat Hewlett needs at least 300 million rands for critical mill maintenance between December this year and April next year, when the next crop of cane will be ready for milling. Petri Redeling-Hayes has more.
Yeah, so Tongaat is not really happy with the developments that are happening there. Remember, Tongaat is under business rescue at the moment. They do need to have a couple of things sorted out between now and April of next year, when their next harvest of sugarcane comes out, and they need to have the milling plants maintained. And I think they said they need something to the tune of 300 million rand to make sure that happens between now and April. And they're saying that the money could be provided by the settlement with Deloitte. If you remember, Deloitte Deloitte is being accused of misstating financials and providing incorrect investor information and that sort of thing. But at the moment, shareholders are showing a bit of frustration to say that this process is taking too long, which the Tongaat management are disagreeing with. And I think at the moment, at this point, it's just shareholders are looking for a lifeline to see if Tongaat can be kept afloat.
Well, it's a tough day on the markets today, and you can see it in the rand and how it's actually performing. The US dollar is quite strong because of a raft of data that is expected from the US later today. Let's take a close look at those spot prices.